Hey guys, David Coatney with Sleek Web Marketing here. I had previously made a video about upgrading your website and included things to be aware of in regards to offboarding tactics commonly used by the outgoing web vendor. Today's video is going to be very different. This is once again geared towards companies that already have a website and are simply upgrading that, but it's going to focus more on things to consider when creating the new site, both from a conversions perspective, but also from a search perspective. Let's start with some site considerations. First, we'll begin with the navigation. Having simple navigation is critical to your website's success. You want to make sure you don't have any orphan pages on your site, unless of course it's a test page that you have no index instructions on anyway. Now, if you're unfamiliar with that term, an orphan page is a page that exists on your site but doesn't have any navigation leading to it. There's no way to get there aside from literally just knowing the address and typing it directly into the address bar. Google doesn't like orphan pages and they will penalize them in the rankings. Now, I understand that not every page is going to need to be added to the main menu, and some pages you may not want on the main menu for one reason or another. But if you're not going to add it to the menu, then you should at least add some links to those pages somewhere else on the site. You also want to make sure that no matter where you are on the site, you always have navigation pointing back to the home page. As a general rule of thumb, don't make people hit the back button. Keep in mind, the more useful and user-friendly your website is, the greater your chance of success, both from driving traffic to your site and also generating positive results from visitors when they're already on the site. Having simple navigation that makes your content easy to find is essential. The next step to consider is CTAs, or calls to action. CTAs will directly influence your bounce rate. So what is bounce rate? Your bounce rate is the percentage of visitors that immediately left your site without clicking on any other pages or interacting with your site in any way. These are single page visits. They came, they left, no engagement. Calls to action can be anything from a contact form to header text detailing next steps to buttons that say things like click here for a free consultation or a free quote or to learn more. You also want to make sure your phone number is prominently displayed because more business is conducted offline after online research is conducted than online after online research, meaning some people would still prefer to pick up the phone and call. You know, I recently read that an estimated 50% of online sales are lost because visitors can't find the content they're looking for. In fact, only 60% of local business websites have their phone number anywhere on the site. So obviously having good navigation and plenty of calls to action is going to be important. Next, I would like to discuss the most important page of your website, the home page. Studies have shown that if the average consumer doesn't clearly understand what you do on the home page of your website, then they will leave within mere seconds and never click on another page to find out. This is why your homepage should always be geared to the lowest common denominator and clearly articulate what you do. If you sell toothpaste, you need to have a giant picture of toothpaste on your homepage, not an image of a gorilla that you used in one of your advertising campaigns. Also, keep in mind, your consumers don't speak your language. So if your website is full of a bunch of jargon and industry terms that you understand, but your consumers may not, then you're promoting your business in a foreign language. That's why it's critical that the homepage of your website clearly communicates who you are and what you do. Otherwise, the end result is click. Now, the next thing to consider is that awkward silence you just experienced is the amount of time it takes for the average consumer to leave your website if it's not loading properly. That was 7 seconds. Not a lot of time. Aside from the fact that people aren't patient these days, in case you haven't noticed, did you know that page load time is factored into Google's algorithm and can impact page ranking in the search engines? So if your site is slow, there are many things that can factor into that load speed. Some issues you might need someone more technical minded to jump in and fix for you. Could have large internal CSS scripting that might be better as external scripts, or Java that could be minified. Could be you don't have any form of page caching or image caching. And then some things you might be able to take care of on your own. It could be you just need to upgrade your hosting plan to a hosting plan with greater bandwidth, or you might need to deactivate plugins you're not using, or possibly use smaller file sizes on some of your images. There are a number of reasons your site could be slow. I have a program I utilize which will analyze any website and show you what those are. But site speed is going to be critical for a number of reasons. With all of that said, the aesthetics of your website, the usability of your website, the content of your site will all work together to create a first impression that will convey a certain level of professionalism to the consumer you're trying to appeal to. Now, once you're ready to actually launch the site, that process of transferring over from the old to the new should be pretty simple. If you're switching hosting companies, you simply redirect the name servers to the new host. This can be done from your DNS settings. And if need be, your new host should be able to guide you through that process and tell you where your name servers need to be directed to. But keep in mind, this redirect is going to happen at the domain level, not the host level. So the new host won't be able to do it for you unless, of course, they also manage your domain and have access to your DNS records. Now, if for some reason you don't own your domain and need to have that transferred over, then there's a process for that as well. You'll need to get a transfer authorization code from whoever currently manages your domain. Now, depending on how it's set up, there is a possibility that there's a domain lock, which could put a delay on the transfer. It's essentially a moratorium, so to speak. Ideally, though, you, the business owner, should own your domain from the start. Now, let's briefly talk about some SEO considerations. If you have already established rankings and you don't want to lose those rankings, then I would recommend keeping your URL slugs the same as before. This is everything that appears after the backslash. So if your about page is being indexed and was previously set to yourwebsite.com/about, don't change it to /our company. Try to keep that the same as before. What happens is that Google will come around to try to recrawl those old URLs, and it will come up with a 404 error. As a result, they'll drop you from the rankings. Now, if you have new optimized pages with new URLs and you submit an XML sitemap to Webmaster Tools, they will eventually come around to crawl those, but how long that takes varies greatly from one site to another. Could be a matter of days, could be a matter of months. So to help facilitate the smoothest transition possible, it's best to keep the same slugs if you can. You'll also want to check to see which terms are doing well. It could be Google already likes some of the written content that you have. Moving metadata over can help as well. There are things like titles, descriptions, alt tags on images. As a general rule of thumb, the more you can move, the less you will lose. Now, if you're not doing well to begin with, that's another story completely. You might need to approach SEO from scratch with a fresh perspective. These tips are more geared for those that have already established some credibility with Google and don't want to lose that ground. Anyway, I hope you found these tips to be helpful. I know I dove into a little more detail than usual, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at david@sleekwebmarketing.com. Thanks for tuning in.